Hey everyone, Team USA update, making the team 1 week out from leaving for Paris and 3 weeks to my actual race at the World Championships. And so I thought I'd throw in a little thing about data. And if I had more than 2 to 3 minutes to do one of these, I would get, I show you my computer system. But this is sort of how it works. And all credit on this one to my first serious triathlon coach. It was 10 years ago. She took me from kind of the average to a little bit above average, and I owe it so much to her. And she was a disciple of Bella Carolla, who's, as you know, very famous in the gymnastics world, and she was a gymnast at that level, and so he taught her a lot about discipline and being data driven. So that sort of trickled down to where I started to excel in the sport, and one of the reasons was data. So data can take an average athlete and make them above average. And that's what she taught me. And so they had incredible data tools. And so I'm just going to talk about the bike, and maybe I'll touch really quick on the run. But on the bike, it was never speed, right? A lot of people think you got your computer on your bike and you're looking at speed. No, actually you're not, or you shouldn't be. You're really looking at 4 different data elements: RPM or cadence, how fast you spin. And usually, 80 is like the minimum. And depending on situations, you're looking at 90 to 100. It'll be different for different people. Another one is power, so wattage. How much power are you putting out? So you'll have done tests before where it's called your FTP, like your maximum power, so that you can moderate based on that number. And then you're looking at your heart rate. And so that's the third data element. And then you'll have a sweet spot for each of this based on data, right? You're putting all this data, all your training, all your computer stuff goes into a database. All this analysis is done, and you find out where your sweet spot is. And so when the 3 numbers come together, I think I mentioned heart rate, when those 3 numbers come together, that determines speed. So that's why you don't need to look at speed. You just work on those 3 numbers, make sure they're optimum. For me, it's like 95 RPM, power, let's just say 200, and then heart rate about 120. That's my optimum. When those sweet spot line up, speed happens, right? So now on a lot of my races, they are draft races. So you know what? All that goes out the window. In fact, at the last national championships, I didn't even use my computer. Heresy, right? Because at that point, I used my data in training, but not in the actual race when you're drafting and everything changes. All right. And so on the run, my sole thing wasn't how fast I was going or how I was doing. I'm getting attacked by mosquitoes. It was my heart rate. And so she would tell me, okay, in the first race, in the first 10K, I want you to stay around 140. And that would determine my speed. And then on the last run would be like a 5K, and I was allowed to go to 155. And she would do this whole data thing that I'm talking about. And she will have compared it to my competition, right? Because all this data is publicly available, and it was all crunched in a database. And she knew, she said, Ed, they're going to be way ahead of you after the first run. Don't worry about it. And then the bike, and these would have been non-draft legal races. And the bike, you're going to catch up to them, stay in my zones that I give you. It's on that last run, you're going to start passing them up one by one. And sure enough, she's like, trust the data, trust the data. You've heard that before. Sure enough, trust the data, and I would start passing them, and that's when I started making Team USA. And so I stuck with that for several years. The other thing on the run, again, getting a little bit too long here, but I just find it super interesting. We do the VO2 max, which is your ability, right, for your lungs to process how much oxygen. The higher your VO2 max, the better. I'm like 58 or so. You can do these tests. But anyways, doing these tests, and I worked with some physicians on this who are world experts, and working with professional athletes. And they would help me, and then they would be able to predict how fast you should be running. So it can't be, I don't feel like running that fast, but they would give me my 5K time, said, Ed, you're capable of this, 10K capable of this, half marathon. And so therefore, I knew physically how fast I could go, which should overcome the mental, because it's the mental that's holding you back. But if I know, hey, I should be able to do, a sub, 40, 10K, when I start getting tired, my mental says, no, slow down. I knew that, nope, I'm going to override that mental because I know my body's physically capable of doing a 39:59. And that's what I did. So that's how we use data in these races. Super important. Mostly, again, for me, my preference in training, data intensive. at the races, I go with my gut, I go with my spirit, I go with my feel and my desire. That's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up in Paris.